Welcome, everybody. Before we get started, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. We have two meetings that we're going to be conducting. The first meeting is called an organizational meeting. Every public entity, whether it's a school board or township trustees or village council, are required to have an organizational meeting in January. Purpose of the meeting is to elect officers, approve some policies, set dates for the year for our regular scheduled meetings. So we'll do that. That meeting is probably going to take about 5 or 10 minutes. It does not have a public participation portion, but the second meeting will be our regular meeting that we would have in the beginning of January, and there will be a public participation portion for that as well. There are two sets of agendas over there, and so one's agenda is going to be for the organizational meeting, and the other meeting, or the other agenda, will be for the regular meeting. We have two board members who aren't here today. Michelle Hayes' father passed away this week, so she's not able to attend, and Jean Sensi is ill. So we do have a quorum. We have 3 board members, so that'll be enough for us to conduct business. Did I forget anything? No.
Oh, Michelle was sworn in prior to the meeting.
All right. Yes, and Michelle was sworn in today as, a board member. So with that, we can start the recording if we haven't already done that. Let me grab my agenda. All right, well, now I'll call the organizational meeting of the Madison Board of Education to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our board members who are newly elected or re-elected now need to be sworn in. So we're ready to go.
We need to do roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Sean Douglas.
Here.
Michelle Hayes. Brian Horvath.
Here.
Gene Sensi. Jeff Thompson.
Here.
So the next item on the agenda is the oath of office. So if the 3 of you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially perform your duties as a member of the Board of Education of the Madison Local School District in Lake County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I have passed out a written copy of what was just read. If you could sign it and send it back down, Jeff, I have yours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move. I second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
All right, we now need to elect a president, so we'll take nominations for president.
I nominate Sean Douglas to be president.
We need a second, right, Mike?
We do not need a second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? All right, roll call?
So during this roll call, you would state the name of the person that you want as president. Sean Douglas, you can vote for yourself.
Sean Douglas.
Thank you. Brian Horvath,
Sean Douglas.
Jeff Thompson.
Sean Douglas.
It's all yours, Sean.
All right, so now we'll move on to election of vice president. Are there any nominations?
Michelle Hayes.
Are there any other nominations? Roll call.
Sean Douglas,
Michelle Hayes.
Brian Horvath,
Michelle Hayes.
Jeff Thompson.
Michelle Hayes.
All right, is there anyone wishing to give a report this evening? All right, so we move on to the time, date, and location of regular meetings. We have our meetings listed here on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve those meeting dates?
I'll move.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Mike, can you explain the Tax Incentive Review Council?
I know they have one in the village where certain parcels within the school district and the village are designated for certain types of tax incentive. We have some in the township also in a tax incentive or tax increment financing district. This council reviews those applications and reviews the applications. Typically, there's not a whole lot of action taking place. It's more of an informative type of committee. Last year, the board appointed me, and I'm not sure we had a meeting last year. We may have had one the year before.
All right, so you're willing to do that again?
Yes.
All right, do we have a motion to appoint Mike Vaccarello as our Tax Incentive Review Council representative?
I'll move.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
All right, we're now going to appoint an Ohio School Board Association legislative liaison. The Ohio School Board Association is obviously made up of school boards, and this is someone to serve on the legislative committee, basically, is what that does. Do we have a motion for a representative from the board?
I move that Brian Horvath is appointed.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Also, another committee for Ohio School Board Association is the Student Achievement Liaison. I know, Jeff, you said you'd be willing to do that today.
Yes.
So I'll make the motion to appoint Jeff Thompson for this liaison.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
All right. So under the consent calendar, we have a number of things that we would need to approve, starting with Robert's Rules of Order. Wow. And ending with the Records Officer. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move. I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
And Mike, can you explain the tax budget?
So the tax budget is a form that we have to submit annually to the county auditor. It is used to determine the tax rates mostly for the debt service because it's based on what the debt payments are for the next year. And it also gives an idea to the county auditor of what our revenue and expenses are going to be. It doesn't allow the board any authority to increase or decrease taxes. It has been done away with in a few of the counties because we're approving, the board is considering the approval tonight, and we already have been given what the tax rates are based on other information that we provided the county auditor. But it still is required in Lake County, so we prepare it. We have a hearing, which for the 25th year in a row, nobody came because we really don't have much to discuss. And then I sent it to the county auditor.
All right, do we have a motion for approval?
I'll move.
I will second it.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Is there a motion for adjournment of the organizational meeting?
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
We'll now call the regular meeting of January 11th, 2022 to order. I'm going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance again because this is recorded and I don't want anyone thinking we skipped it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Sean Douglas,
Here.
Michelle Hayes, Brian Horvath,
Here.
Gene Sensi, Jeff Thompson.
Yes. Here.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 12th, 2021?
I move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Does 2 votes get us there?
I don't know, does it?
He can vote yes.
All right, then, okay. Roll call?
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of November 23rd, 2021?
I'll move.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 14th, 2021?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
Anyone wishing to give board member reports? All right, we're going to have our public participation portion of the meeting. We have 4 registered speakers. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. If anyone asks questions, we'll probably hold those questions until the end of the public session and then try to address them as best we can. Our first speaker is Jillian Lawrence.
Hello. My name is Jillian Lawrence. I'm a 2004 graduate of, sorry. Thank you. My name is Jillian Lawrence. I'm a 2004 graduate of Madison Schools, hold a bachelor's degree in nursing, and I'm working on my master's in nursing, studying to become a nurse practitioner. I have worked in an ICU taking care of COVID patients for the entire pandemic. My 2 sons attend Madison, and my 2 young daughters will attend in the near future. I want to start off by saying thank you for extending winter break. I feel that was the right decision. However, the optional mask policy is concerning to me as a medical professional. Lake County has the 5th highest case amount per 100,000 residents in Ohio. Hospitals in the area are seeing a record number of admissions and record number of staff ill with COVID. There were an additional 442 COVID admissions in the past 24 hours. According to the Ohio Hospital Association, hospitalization is up by 24.1% for the age group 0 to 17 since last week, and up by 208.1% from 8 weeks ago when you voted to make masking optional. All other age groups have had vast increase during that time as well and can be seen on the Ohio Hospital Association website. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends all schools implement universal masking. Their reason is due to scientific evidence that masks decrease droplet emission and decrease inhalation and exhalation of viral particles, which can decrease the spread of COVID and other respiratory illnesses. This is consistent with their recommendation to keep kids in the classroom and prevent virtual learning, which was found to be detrimental to education. My 10-year-old is a 5th grader at North Elementary and said only 3 kids in his class did not wear a mask so far this week. That is great news, but if one of those 3 kids comes to school symptomatic or pre-symptomatic with COVID, they have the potential of infecting more classmates than their masked children. The Omicron variant is more contagious due to the high replication rate in the upper airway, which makes it easier to spread through coughing, sneezing, and talking. Our goal should be to keep kids in school and to decrease risk and severity of illness for our students, staff, and their families. Our community and school districts should be doing everything they can to keep people healthy, and optional masking is not a sufficient tactic during the Omicron surge. I know there have been a lot of complaints about masking, and you have been put in a very tough position. However, the well-being of our students and staff need to take top priority. I appreciate you gave the parents of younger children time to get the children vaccinated if they wish to do so before starting the optional mask policy at the elementary schools. Unfortunately, it is seeming like due to the number of mutations on the Omicron variant, it is evading natural immunity from previous infection and vaccine-induced immunity, while still greatly reducing the likelihood of severe disease. I'm not stating people should lose confidence in the vaccine. Severe disease is what I deal with at work every day, not being bedridden at home for a week, even though that is horrible. What I'm saying is we still want to prevent and reduce infection in these people to decrease education time that will be lost if they become infected. I am asking you revisit the decision you made regarding optional masking. Masks should be mandatory at this time as Omicron is spreading rapidly. Other schools in the county and state have re-implemented mandatory masks, even with many community members opposed. Please consider voting again on this subject due to the change in the pandemic, and please use science to guide your vote. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Can you get your mic back on, Sean?
Okay. Jessica Lampman. Wow. Guess that was on.
You're not a soft-spoken.
All right. Yeah, I don't want to make it. In recognition of Board Appreciation for School Boards for January, I had asked last month for a list of accomplishments that you as a board and administration have achieved first half of the year. Haven't gotten that. I did appreciate the sweet slideshow. That was awesome, great pictures, but that doesn't really bullet point like everything that you guys have worked and done. I would really like to put something together. I would, of course, send it to you first for you to review and approve, because I'd really like to push everything you guys have worked towards and done. So I don't know if we could throw something together, but I think that'd be good for the community to see. That'd be huge. It was brought to my attention that our middle schoolers some of them are creating Instagram accounts and are targeting and bullying some of the other middle school kids. Pictures of other people's kids are on these Instagram pages. It was brought to the attention, and the resolution was, if we take these pages down, more are going to pop up. Absolutely, that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm asking if we can find a solution similar to what Chardon does and Riverside does. Everyone is familiar with what happened in Chardon. They actually have a social media group. It's a group who monitors those pages, different Facebook pages and hate pages, to kind of keep track of that kind of thing going on so we can stay on top of that, because I got to tell you, some of the stuff that I found on those pages is terrible. If I ever saw my son's page or face on that page, I'd be devastated. It would break his heart. And my son is actually the one who came to me and talked to me about it. He's involved with a group of kids at school, and a lot of those kids are his friends. And those are some of the kids who started it. And he said, you know, these are my friends, but I don't want anything to do with that because that's wrong. Chase has been bullied most of his life because he has high-functioning ADHD. And for him to come to me and say, this is a problem, but some of these kids are my friends, I don't know what to do. But I don't agree with it, and we need help. Like, I think that's huge. So I'm asking for the board's help to come up with some type of social media committee or, you know, something. We can have a group of adults who kind of keep track of that stuff. I know you guys got your hands full, but we gotta figure that out because kids will take their lives over stuff on social media. Like I know we're a bully-free zone, but you can only do so much within the walls. So a committee like that to monitor pages would be huge. I'd really implement the bully-free and keep that down. During winter break, Auburn Career Center released a statement of all the things that they sanitized and cleaned and accomplished while doors were closed and people were on break. I'm not saying it's bad that we didn't do something like that, but I think it would be awesome for the community to say, hey, while everyone was at home with their feet up, look what everybody was doing at the school. We were doing this, we were cleaning this, we used these funds to do this, you know, I think that'd be a great way to show the community everything that you're doing within the walls to keep everything clean. I was just really impressed with the statement that they released. It was nice. Thank you for extending winter break. As you guys all know, I hate the mask thing. I don't believe in it. But I think extending winter break was a good call. And my kids were certainly thrilled. I was not the happiest, but they were happy, so that's what matters. Thank you for continuing to allow the optional masking policy and upholding the freedoms that of the state and the U.S. Constitution that you swore to uphold when you were sworn into office. Those are very important to hold close to you and uphold. I mean, you take that promise when you're sworn into office that you're going to stick to that. And so far, you guys have done that through the roller coaster of messes. So thank you for that. Kudos to that. I wanted to, there was a situation with a miscommunication. Angela got pounded with emails. There was parents upset, and she knows what I'm talking about. Sean probably knows what I'm talking about. Publicly from here, it was not on Angela's shoulders. That was not on her. And I communicated that to community members and parents that that was not on you. However, I did have the conversation with him, and I said, you know, it'd be great if he would say, hey guys, that's my bad, not hers. Because if you can't say, guys, that was my bad, and step up and admit to the fault and admit that you let something fall through, then the blame's going to get pointed at the wrong person. That's kind of like when kids are in a household together and one of them does something wrong, no one will admit to it, everyone gets punished. Same situation. So, and I told him that. So I just wanted to address Angela with that comment.
Thank you.
There's one other one. I think it's in the other one. No, that's it, because it's in the other agenda, so that's it.
Thank you. Daisy Moles.
Hello.
Hello. I actually just have some questions. So maybe, hopefully, there's a chance to kind of answer them. I know, Sean, we had talked about this. Jeff, we had talked about it. And my understanding, the two of you actually met to talk about it, is as far as starting a Q&A, maybe quarterly, so that instead of this public sort of speaking at you thing, we can actually have a little back and forth. So I'm curious if we've made any progress on that, if we've come up with anything that might work. The other thing I would like to have an update on is the committee for the literature review. Sean, I believe you guys were reaching out to Kelly. When I talked to her, she had not heard from anyone yet. I believe she reached out to you guys, so would like an update on that as well, where we're at with that. How are we finding the parents? If you guys have made any progress on that. Mike, I am also curious, I know I put in actually in Angela too, I put in the curriculum, the materials request a little while ago. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't heard a response. I want to make sure that it was received and that we're all good on that. You're looking confused, so.
I'll address it in my treasurer's thing.
Okay. Dave, hi. I'm hoping that maybe we can get a little clarification on the new quarantine orders now that everything's been changed and the CDC has gone to 5 days. And, I just kind of want to know where we stand. There was an incident where my daughter was asked to wear a mask for the day. I was not contacted. I do have an exemption on file. I was obviously not happy about that. I've let her know she has to call me. I understand we have a new mask policy and exemptions aren't the same, but I think to breach that, the parents that have exemption on file have to be called before their kids are told to wear a mask all day. So again, I've contacted the actual teacher that, we need to discuss that, and she knows to call me, but I just wanted to put that out there, that maybe there's a policy so that the parents with exemptions do not feel like they're being overrided. Curious if we've considered any new systems of communication. I know Jess had mentioned some communication issues. I've brought this up with Sean as far as, the incident with the dance at the middle school. There was potentially incident with drugs at the high school. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, just what Jess had mentioned with Auburn. And, we get communicated all the time about new COVID cases. And I think we could balance that maybe with a little more communication, and even when something happens where people have made a mistake, because we all do, or we've learned something, to address it and let parents know. For example, with the middle school dance, I've talked to Sean about this, but I have a middle schooler, there's an 8th grade dance coming up. It was a fiasco last time. I have no idea how, I really don't want to send her, but she's volunteering. Like, I'm scared to send her to the dance because what is going to be different? What have we changed? What are we addressing? So there's really a valuable thing for the community if we can come up with a way. I'm not trying to overtax you guys, but even once a month, or especially when something major happens, an email goes a long way, I think has been a theme. Return to learn plan. I am curious too if we, what would be the standards for going virtual? There's a lot of rumors about it, and I'm just curious if that's even any.
I'll address that real quickly, I think, because there is no intent right now to go virtual. We might have an asynchronous day if I did not have enough staff to cover classes in a building. But we have nothing on file right now with our teachers union, which we would have to have in order to go virtual. So okay. I am putting that one to rest.
All right, thank you.
My goal is to keep these doors open.
Great. And one more thing real quick. This is off the cuff, but just for what Jess had mentioned about the social media, kind of watching that, which I think is a great idea. And I just wanted to throw a name out there. She has no idea I'm going to throw her name out, but I know when my daughter was cheerleading, that Coach Wesley was on top of their Instagram. Nothing slid by. So she may have advice, or I don't know how she does it, but she would be a person I would say to at least ask if we decide to kind of try to form something. She seems to really be able to know what the kids are doing on social media. That's all I have. Thank you.
Also, if you wanted screenshots of those, I can send them over to you.
Thank you.
Erica Kirstein.
Sorry, I don't have anything written down. I really just have a question, and it's about your masking. Obviously, the young lady who spoke first did an excellent job. I'm a registered respiratory therapist. I've been doing that for 11 years, and I'm very frustrated that you extended break, but then you leave the option to not mask. You acknowledge that they cut down on the spread of COVID, but you then leave it optional because I'm assuming parents are upset about it. But in all actuality, isn't the most important thing to make sure that our students remain in school? Because I'm sure I'm not the only parent that thought that virtual learning was absolutely horrible, and I don't think my student learned much of anything, not to mention that they are even more socially isolated because they are now stuck at home. So I'm hoping that you can revisit it. I was curious to find out when you vote on these things, or what other meetings I might need to attend, because I completely disagree with it. I'm sorry that people feel it's violating their rights as Americans, but I mean, what's the whole no shirt, no shoes, no service? Nobody has a problem with that, so I guess that I'm sorry, like I said, I don't have anything written out. That was my main question, so I don't know if you're going to address that at all, or how do you vote on that, or that was it. I don't have anything else. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, that was a lot, all those things. The question and answer session, sort of a timing of that, we have to look at the legalities of doing that. Anytime we have 3 or more board members who are attending an event and it's for the purpose of dealing with issues related to the school, it is a public board meeting. And so we have all of the notice requirements that we normally have and all kinds of things like that. Normally, a board meeting is for the purpose of conducting business for the district. That doesn't stop any individual board member from holding events to meet the public and answer questions. Any of us could do that at any point, I suppose. But if we do it as a group, it's a public board meeting, and we have a lot of requirements that go along with that. Literature review committee is being formed. Kelly was contacted. Angela spoke to Kelly about that and let her know that she is going to be on the committee. So I think we'll probably be setting up our first meeting sometime in the next few weeks. I'll let Mike talk about the public records request.
Yeah, I got it, and I thought I sent back the standard, I've received your public records request, it'll be filled timely, and I checked my chart and I did not, so I apologize. We are working on gathering the information either later tonight or tomorrow. You will get that response that says I've received it, because you need to have that, and I need to be able to put that in my chart. So I apologize for not getting that to you timely.
You asked about what meetings that you would want to come to. Anytime we have a public meeting, again, we have notice requirements. We issue that to not only individuals who've asked to be notified of our public meetings. So if you'd like to be notified of our public meetings, you could email Mike Vaccarello. His email is on our web address or our website, and you would be notified anytime we're going to have a meeting. As far as masking, our board has made the decision that we want to have a mask optional policy. That doesn't stop anybody from sending their children with masks, but that's the decision that we've made at this point. There was a period of time where we had a masking policy. The board revisited that, and that's the decision that the board as a whole has made, is to be consistent and to continue to have a mask optional policy. Could that be revisited in the future? Sure. We could change the policy again tonight, or we could change it at any point, but I don't believe that the board has an interest in doing that at this point. I think that was most everything. So are we on a reports of the administrative team? Oh, no, I'm sorry, reports and recommendations of the treasurer.
Thank you. I have several items that I would like to talk about prior to getting into the items on the agenda. The first is the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021 has been completed. It was again a clean audit with no findings nor any management letter comments, and that's what we strive for and accomplish every year in this district. As part of that audit, the Auditor of State star rating system is something that reflects a rating for each public office that measures not only compliance with the Sunshine Law, but also encourages public entities such as the school district to be more open and transparent with the citizens they serve throughout implementation of the identified best practices. This is the second year in a row, or the second year of the rating system, so this year and last year were the first year that that this was in existence. And this is the second year that we have received the highest achievement in open and transparent government award. So that again is something, except for messing up Daisy's public records request, we do track everything and they check our timeliness and all of that. So on the way in, people might have picked up a couple of sheets with graphs on them. About this time every year, the district profile report is put forward by the state of Ohio, and the profile report for the fiscal year 2021, the year ending June 30th, 2021, were released by the Ohio Department of Education. The district profile report compares Ohio school districts using 61 different attributes. I've chosen the two that are most common. The first is revenue per pupil, and that's actually the lower graph. Yeah, that's the second graph on the pages with the two graphs. We're the district all the way to the right in blue. We receive $12,312 per pupil. We're the only district in Lake County that's under $13,000 per pupil. The next closest district receives $13,019. The state average is $16,155 per pupil, and the highest in Lake County is over $19,000. Madison receives $707 per pupil less than the next closest district, and about $3,800 less than the state average, and almost $6,900 less than the highest district in Lake County. That is per pupil. We've been the lowest for years. We receive less per pupil than anyone in Lake County and less than the state average. We're actually 48th lowest in Ohio, so we're 8th lowest. Said another way, there's 92% of the districts in the state of Ohio that are receiving more funding per pupil than the Madison schools. And the funding per pupil takes into account federal, state, and real estate tax revenue. So we don't get a lot of revenue per pupil, so we can't spend a lot. Again, we're the lowest in Lake County, and we've been. $345 lower than the next lowest district, $2,600 lower than the state average, and $6,700 lower than the highest district in Lake County. I think the highest district in the state is around $29,000 per pupil. We're at $10,721. State average is $13,387, and the highest in Lake County is $17,460. Madison has the 54th lowest per pupil expenditure in the state. We're in the lowest 9%, meaning 91% of the districts spend more per pupil than Madison does. Clearly, we're providing a good education at a very low cost. And I think we've said it before, we don't have a spending problem in this district. We have a revenue problem. If you don't bring it in, you can't spend it, and if you can't spend it, your educational product isn't as good as other districts because they're able to spend more.
Mike, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does that include our revenue, the ESSER funds, the first two rounds, or not?
If it includes any, it would include ESSER 1.
Okay.
Because we didn't start spending a bulk of ESSER 2, but I don't believe the ESSER funds are included.
Thank you.
So the other page shows the tax rates for the schools in Lake County, and again, we are second lowest in both. The top one is operational levies. The bottom one includes the levies, the operational levies plus the permanent improvement levy and the levies associated with the buildings that were built in and occupied in 2013. So again, we're the second lowest. Perry is the lowest, but as I say, we don't have a nuclear power plant sitting in our backyard. And these rates or millage do include our share of the joint financing district, which is why Perry's at 21.94. They are at the 20 mil floor plus 1.94 of the joint financing district. What does this mean? If your home is valued at $100,000, you pay about $1,148 per year in taxes that goes to the schools. Your actual tax bill may be $2,400, but a little less than that goes towards the schools. Most people think that the whole amount goes to the schools, but in reality, it's a little less than half. Other municipalities or municipalities and other taxing authorities, such as the village and the township, the fire department, Lakeland Community College, Lake Metro Parks, and Auburn Career Center, all levy taxes, and that makes up a little more than the other half of what you pay. So Any questions on the items that I handed out? So typically, I don't talk about legislation as it's making its way through, but there's something that, while it'll have a short-term effect on the school district, it'll have a longer-term effect on the taxpayers in this district and all districts. It's House Bill 126, making its way through the legislature in Columbus. And again, about half of our operating revenue comes from real estate taxes. If a property is sold for more than it's valued on the tax docket, the district would file a tax complaint requesting an increase in the taxable value, increase the taxable value on the books to the sales price. Because what better way to determine the value of a property than what somebody would pay for it at an arm's length transaction? We don't go out and hire appraisers during this step. It's simple as looking at the sales for the year, comparing them to the tax rolls, and if it's over a threshold of $100,000 difference, we would file a complaint to increase the taxes. $100,000. I think at one point we did 25 and had our heads handed to us, so we bumped that up to $100,000. That is a large difference in taxable value. Also, when a taxpayer files for a decrease, we make sure the decrease is justified by either a sale or possibly an appraisal, depending on the money that's at stake. We don't hire appraisals for residential property. We hire appraisers for large business differences, just to make sure that appraisal is correct, or the tax value is correct. House Bill 126 will prohibit the school district from filing a tax complaint for an increase in property values. So we had some that were, as I said, $100,000 lower than the sales price, at least $100,000. We would not have the opportunity to gain the additional taxes on those properties. If we want to file a counter complaint, meaning the homeowner then asked for a decrease and it's over the threshold, we would file a counter complaint. We first have to have a board resolution passed. Now the legislature wants to take a process that has been working and make it political. Make it political to the point where this board has to take action on something that has been in the normal course, for at least the 25 years I've been a treasurer. If we file a counter complaint and we lose, typically we'd appeal. If we thought it was unjustified, we lose the ability to appeal any judgments. And finally, sometimes we come to an agreement where, we're going to leave the value at this year, and then it'll be agreed to a value in the future. They will make a private payment to the district, basically hold us harmless for that 1 year so we can just both go on our ways and stop spending money on attorneys. House Bill 126 would prohibit those. We did 2 of those last year. Big dollar amounts, lost money to the revenue. So why is this important not only to the school district but the residents? In the short term, we would lose 1 year of that revenue from the incorrect value. But future years, because of our, all of our levies are fixed sum levies, they have to generate the same dollar amount year after year. If I'm paying less on my house because I undervalued it, or it's undervalued on the tax rolls, district still has to receive the same amount, so everybody else is going to pick up a small piece of that. Short term, bad for the district. Much longer term, bad for the residents. So example, somebody buys a house for $250,000, but the value on the tax records is $150,000. The auditor doesn't go in and adjust every year for tax for sales. If they did, we wouldn't have an issue. District would file a complaint to have the value increased. Under the new law, the district couldn't do that. If the taxpayer pays the taxes on a value that is $100,000 lower than it should be, then the first year, again, the district loses the money. But after that, the rest of the residents have to make up that difference. So not a big deal on $100,000, but on the commercial side last year, we had 7 properties. 3 of them were undervalued between $1.2 million and $1.4 million. So that's a lot of value that the rest of the taxpayers are going to have to make up. It's the way the law works. So last year we filed complaints on 14 residential properties whose values were at least $100,000 higher than the tax value, 7 commercial properties. The potential lost revenue between just those 21 properties was going to be $86,000. So we're not talking nickel and diming residents. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in protecting our tax base in major errors on the tax rolls. So again, the big one that we look at every year is Walmart. You know, Walmart is the big taxing building in this community. They can now, I'm afraid they'll have free run to set the value as they want, and if it's not caught by the auditor, we can't do anything about it. So that's just something that's rolling through. I think it's going to pass. It's trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. Yes, homeowners get mad when we file, but we don't ask for more than the sales price. And honestly, there have been times when the sales price is not an accurate portrayal of the value, and we talk it out. And if it's just not supposed to be the sales price, we don't push. You know, most of the time that happens with business when you buy the building and the contents. The building is the value, the contents are not, but they list it all on sales price. Those go away immediately. Process has worked, but apparently the wrong person had one filed against them, so now we're going to have a law that we have to follow. There ends my soapbox for tonight.
Is there any benefit to House Bill 126 at all? For the district, like?
No.
Nothing?
No, because the process is working as it's set forth. It will mean, no, there's no benefit. It's only going to hinder us in our ability to have people pay their proper share of taxes. Any other questions?
No, I just want to make a comment. I've said this a million times, but I think it's important. Jessica asked about accomplishments. If you know, Mike said this, I'm going to say it in a different way. If you take every dollar our school district gets and you divide it by the number of students we have, that's our per student revenue, and you stack us up against every other district in the state of Ohio, and we're in the bottom 8%. Our last state report card, when the state was issuing those, was a B. So we have good schools on F- funding. Those are the results. I mean, that's state report card versus the amount of money we get compared to other districts. That's a great equalizer amongst districts. I mean, obviously Cleveland, for instance, has a huge budget, but they have a lot of students. So that's how you figure out, you know, when you want to stack these districts up against one another on funding, is total funding divided by the number of students per student revenue. So I know you said that, Mike, but every time I have to reiterate it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So on to the items in the agenda. The first is to approve the financial reports, the fund-to-fund transfer report, and the check payment register for December 2021.
I'll move.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0. The next is to accept donations, a donation of $300 from Madison Family Restaurant to North Elementary School to be used for PBIS, and generous donation of gift cards to Madison Middle School and Madison High School for Santa Streaks from the following: Lynn and Vonda Mitchell, Brian and Vicki Tittman, Jessica and Adam Whittakin, Rick Fike, Jody Toward, Tommy and Christy Oschip, Elisha Bedham, Bethany and Mark Anthony, Jen Hawkins, Vicki and Rudy Nadbath, the Tittman-Mitchell family, and the Cowenberg family. And finally, to accept a generous donation of $500 from Susan Leach to the Robert Leach Memorial Education Fund.
I'll move.
I second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Report to the administrative team.
Yes, I have several items this evening. First, I want to start with the recognition of School Board Member Appreciation Month. Each year in January, the Ohio School Boards Association recognizes members of boards of education for their service to public schools. Without those in the community willing to step up and serve in the capacity of board members, public schools could not exist. On behalf of the Ohio School Boards Association and the residents and community of Madison, thank you for your dedication and service. And we, as an administrative team, got you a few little things to recognize you during this month. So thank you for your service. My next item is a semi-personal one. I want to say that a seat sits empty tonight. We are going to say goodbye to a member of our community that was an active participant in board members for my entire time being in central office, Joe Vulcan. So at the old board office, he would always come in and sit right at by the door in the front row corner, and during public participation, he could be counted on to lend his opinion on a variety of topics, usually related to taxes. I would watch him question my predecessors meeting after meeting. And we lost Joe last month, and it was very sad for me. Over the years, his voice mellowed, and while we agreed to disagree, we had a mutual respect for one another. He still asked tough questions and shared his opinions. Joe believed in the participatory process of government. Whether it was at a township trustee meeting or a school board meeting, he participated through regular attendance at meetings. Joe was not tech savvy, so when we went virtual in our meetings last year, he made the attempt to participate. That was dedication to the process. Back when we were building our buildings and starting our plan, I'll never forget the meeting where Joe firmly stated the basics were fine. We didn't need new buildings, as you know, roofs were leaking and things were crumbling down. But he was firm in his conviction. And you know what? There are some days with all the craziness of the world that I do not disagree. The basics could be fine. His wife, Karen, was also a regular participant, came with him to almost every meeting. And during a meeting last summer, I asked Joe where she was. He replied, "We don't have to do everything together." But knowing from my own parents' relationship, who were married over 50 years, that was an understatement. They did do a lot together and were inseparable. When I learned of Joe's passing last month, to say I was shocked was an understatement. He will be missed. I pictured him giving Dr. Gowdy grief in the heavenly skies, waiting to get the last word. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight because Joe was a very active part of our board meetings for many years. And the last item that I want to talk about, and then that'll go right into Dave's, is COVID is still rampant in Lake County. I do believe that our 3 days extension of winter break allowed staff to recoup and heal, because we did have a lot of staff come down with it. And so far, our first 2 days of attendance have been pretty good. I mean, we have had a few absences and teachers having to pick up and cover, but nothing like it was in November and December. So knock on wood and fingers crossed that we can keep that up. Staff is still required to wear the masks, which I think will help there. Cases are high, and I believe Dave's presentation is going to help a little bit to clarify things, but the changing guidance over winter break, well, I know what the CDC was trying to do, created, I think, more questions and a lot of confusion than giving us firm answers. So at this point in the meeting, unless you have any general questions for me, I'm going to turn it over to Dave. But remember, everything we're doing is in the essence of trying to keep schools open so we do not have to go remote.
Absolutely. Before I jump into the guidance, I just want to point out we have our district spelling bee, and that is going to happen on Monday, January 24th, 9 a.m. in the cafeteria at the middle school.
Oh, we moved it? It was the 25th on my calendar.
Yeah, we moved it to Monday the 24th.
We got to talk about that.
Okay. So it was originally the 25th. We'll talk about whether it's going to be the 24th, but it's coming up. In this week and next week, the middle school, 2 elementary schools are holding building-wide spelling bees to determine champions. Students eligible for the spelling bee are in grades 4 through 8. So we will have the winners from each of those grades converge and have a district spelling bee that will then send one winner from our district to compete in the county spelling bee. I think it's a tri-county spelling bee that's early February. And ultimately, that process will keep going until they end up in Washington, D.C. and on ESPN for the Scripps National Spelling Bee Contest. So maybe one of our spellers will make it to D.C. this year. That'd be fun. As Angela pointed out, we did get new guidance in late December from the CDC. So how do we get our guidance and make our decisions about how we're going to handle the issues associated with COVID? Well, we all heard through the news that the CDC came out with some new guidelines, but we don't react right away when that happens. That is then taken up by the state of Ohio and the Ohio Department of Health. They'll take a look at what the CDC says and make their recommendations. It's still not to us yet because then our local health departments will take a look and tailor that guidance so that it makes sense for each county, because not all counties are the same or have the same kinds of situations. Finally, once our Lake County General Health District has decided what kind of guidance they're going to publish, that's who we have listened to through this whole process. And I've said it a lot of times to a lot of people. I have no medical training, although I am married to a nurse, and I sometimes listen to things that she says. But I don't want to be a person who's making medical decisions. I want to rely on medical health care people. So that's been our process through this whole pandemic. So the changes, I'll send this down. Packet for each of you. This is what we have come up with for the Madison local schools. Now, the first page is what we wrote up for Madison. If you look at the remaining 3 pages, it's a flow chart, and that's what came from the Ohio Department of Health. You will notice that our guidelines are very, very similar to what's written in that flow chart. Hopefully I simplified them for buildings. So first, if a person tests positive for COVID-19, and I'll just go over the highlights. It was 10 days. Now you stay home for 5 days from the onset of symptoms. If while you're home, you try your best to stay away from others, even in your own home. Wear a mask whenever you can. And after 5 days, if you still have a fever or any of the other symptoms haven't started to get better, on day 6, you're going to stay home until those things improve. If the fever is gone and other symptoms are better, you can return to school on day 6 wearing a mask reliably for the next 5 days. Now, if you were exposed to somebody who has COVID-19 and you are fully vaccinated, you may return to school wearing a mask reliably for 10 days after your last exposure. We would like people to test on day 5. We also understand that tests are like gold now, so they're very difficult to come by. So we strongly recommend testing on day 5 to ensure that that you are not COVID positive, but that's a strong recommendation. If you develop symptoms or test positive at any point during that time, stay home an additional 5 days or until symptoms resolve. If you were exposed to someone who has COVID-19 and you are not fully vaccinated, in this case, you would stay home for 5 days after your last exposure. Testing on day 5 is strongly recommended, and you may return to school if negative and or asymptomatic, wearing a mask for the remaining 5 days. And again, if you develop symptoms after that, if you develop any symptoms after that, or test positive, we ask that you stay home. This document has been sent to all the buildings, so the people who will be communicating with families have all of this information. There's also a link that will take you to this flow chart from the Ohio Department of Health. And as with all new guidance, It's very likely that this will change again at some point, and sometimes the changes come quickly, so we try our best to keep up with it.
Is fully vaccinated with or without the booster?
Its definition is without booster right now.
Yes. Any other questions for me?
And we will send this out in an update to the community so that they have it as we have it. And as it changes, we will keep sharing it. Ready for the recommendations? All right, under the personnel motion, we're asking for the unpaid leave request of Julie Watt, Madison Middle School 8th grade science teacher for the period of February 18th, 2022 through May 27th, 2022. We're asking you to enter into the following employment contracts. Each of the following as substitute teachers is approved by the Educational Service Center of the Western Reserve and/or the Madison Local School District Superintendent under a one-year limited substitute teacher contract. Aaron Brenninger and Matthew Cheeseborough. Each of the following substitute teachers is building subs effective January 10th, 2022, Laura Walters and Ryan Zavoda. We're asking you to approve the following transfers. To approve the transfer of Allie White from a 6.5-hour long-term substitute special needs aide position at North Elementary School to a 6.5-hour autism assistant at North Elementary School, effective January 10th, 2022. I thought she was going to the same room and the D was moving to the autism. We'll have to check that. So it's a regular special needs aide, so please correct that as not an autism. And then to approve the transfer of Christine Kiesler from a 3-hour playground aide at North Elementary School to a 6.5-hour long-term substitute special needs aide at North Elementary School. And then to amend the following contracts, to amend the coaching contract of Aaron Brown, Board Motion 17921, from MHS Assistant Swim Coach to MHS Assistant Varsity Wrestling Coach at a rate of compensation of 0.15 years, 0.15 4 years at $5,557.
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
All right, and then at the end of the month, they're bringing back the Chamber of Commerce, Eastern Lake County Chamber of Commerce Awards Dinner or luncheon, and we have 2 resolutions, one for West Orchards Farm Market as 2021 Business of the Year award, and then we have one for the Eastern Lake County Chamber of Commerce 2022 Beacon Award winner, and that goes to the Lake County Free Clinic.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Brian Horvath,
Yes.
Jeff Thompson.
Yes.
Sean Douglas.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
And there is nothing on the consent calendar this evening, so we do not have to take any action there. And I do have a need for an executive session.
So we'll need a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employees or regulated individuals, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or regulated individual unless such person requests a public hearing.
I move.
Well, I have 2 motions, so one's a second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Jeff Thompson,
Yes.
Sean Douglas,
Yes.
Brian Horvath.
Yes.
Vote is 3-0.
All right, we stand in adjournment, and we will not be conducting any business when we return from our executive session.